asking others all over the world to join them in global climate strikes starting today. More events will take place before another big day of action on September 27th. The strikes are taking place all over the world at the moment ahead of the UN Climate Action Summit that is going to take place on Monday. Now, this is really interesting. It's somewhat exciting as well, but let's take a look. Let's have a conversation about what's going on here, okay? So the individual strikes all around the world are being organized and executed by young people in their own towns and cities across the world, kind of like how there was a national school walkout last year that aimed at combating gun violence here in the States. And this is what's going on in New York City. Currently, this is Foley Square. Apparently, more than 1.1 million students were allowed to take off school to participate in this strike. Now, if you're an adult, okay, you can still join. Don't worry. It's not a problem. They are looking for allies from all around the world and in all ages. According to the now famous student climate change activist Greta Thunberg, the strike events there are 4,638 events in 139 countries on all continents. It's growing, and everyone's welcome. Everyone is needed. And you can go to fridaysforfuture.org to find your closest strike or register your own. And so what do these strikers want? And here, you can go here to register a future strike, or you can report a past one. So the strikers are demanding climate justice, to cast the climate crisis as not just an environmental issue, but an ethical obligation. And the reason why they want this is because climate change impacts our lives in incredibly meaningful ways. Let's take a look at what NASA's global climate change studies show as far as the effects of climate change. There are observable effects on this. Obviously, one of the most common occurrences now is the fact that extreme weather conditions are routine and a normal part of our lives. You have Category 5 hurricanes occurring in unusual patterns and with higher consistency. But some of the future effects are temperatures continuing to rise, a frost-free season and growing season that will lengthen. This will ruin agriculture. This will ruin crops, where heat-trapping gas emissions will continue to grow and increase a month or more in the lengths of the frost-free and growing seasons across most of the United States by the end of the century, with slightly smaller increases in the northern Great Plains. There will be a change in precipitation patterns. The average U.S. precipitation has increased since the 1900s, but some areas have had greater increases than the national average. There will be more droughts and more heat waves. Hurricanes will become, as I mentioned before, stronger and more intense. The intensity, frequency, and duration of the North Atlantic hurricanes, as well as the frequency of the strongest Category 4 and 5 hurricanes, have all increased since the early 1980s, and the relative contributions of human and natural causes to these increases are still uncertain, but this is the scientific speculation. Sea levels will rise by 1 to 4 feet by 2100. The global sea level is already rising. It's risen about 8 inches since the reliable record keeping began in 1880, and it's projected to rise another 1 to 4 feet by 2100. And this is, of course, a result of the ice caps melting and the expansion of the seawater. The Arctic is also likely to become ice-free. Now, it also has a political effect, though. The Trump administration is ignoring its own evidence of climate change and the impact that climate change has on migration from Central America. A internal report that was circulated to senior Homeland Security officials and obtained by NBC News showed that migration surged from those areas in Guatemala without reliable resources, subsistence farming, or wages from commercial farming jobs. More than 100,000 Guatemalans headed north last year, and many more followed in the fiscal year of 2019, making Guatemala the single largest country contributing to undocumented immigrants across the United States southwest border this year. They're doing this because climate change is impacting their crops and their agricultural production. So I highly urge you guys to read into this a little bit more. And at the very least, as Greta Thunberg says, listen to the activists. I'm Hasan Piker, and this has been The Breakdown.